series is powered by Medicar Automotive, Malaga suspension, and Manta performance exhausts.
Welcome to Sodium. She is a 1993 Toyota Landcruiser 80 series standard. She spent the beginning part of her life running up and down the railway lines between Adelaide and Perth as a government vehicle, and then my family acquired it way back in 1997. It had done about 120,000 k's then, and now we've done about 425,000 kilometres since then, and I've personally owned it for 4 to 5 years. What I'd like to do is take you around the vehicle, talk about some of the OEM specs as well as some of the capability upgrades that I've done, and the intention there is not only to introduce you to the vehicle but also give you a bit of a basis should you be planning to do the canning stock route, what our vehicle has and how that measures against some of our statistics like our fuel, our suspension comfort, our weight, what we've packed. So we'll take you around the vehicle now. Alright, we've got it all opened up, ready to go. We're going to start with everyone's most interesting topic, which is power. So we'll head around to the front engine bay and we'll have a look. The 80 series Landcruiser standard is powered by the 1HZ engine. It's a 4.2 litre straight six engine. It's naturally aspirated. I don't have any turbos running on this and don't have any intention to do that. In terms of power modifications, I haven't done a whole lot. I've got the new Genie extractors and the Manta 2.5-inch exhaust system, which adds a little bit more flow, and I also had the mechanical fuel pump rebuilt and modified and tuned by the guys at Medicar, and that was probably the biggest bang for buck on power. If you do have these old engines and you're finding they're starting to lag a little bit, the mechanical fuel pump does need retuned every now and again, so it's worth your while taking it into a 4x4 specialist and getting that looked at. The only other thing I've done, and it's not a performance mod, is I've added the oil catch can. Usually these are for turbos, but as my engine is an aging engine, to make sure she's running as clean as possible. In terms of power, that's about it. So the drivetrain, the 80 series standard has front lock-in hubs, and the transfer case allows you to switch from two-wheel drive to four-wheel drive, which is different from most other 80 series vehicles. Because it is a non-turbo version, the gearbox is also different. It's got a lower first and second gear, which I really like when it comes to four-wheel driving. In low range, it's even lower still. So in terms of capability upgrade that I've done is inserted a Eaton electronic e-locker into the rear. Okay, suspension. We are running the Dobinson's 3-inch lift suspension system, and that's the remote reservoir, the top of the line shocks. But because suspension is important, we will do a section on that shortly. In terms of lighting, as you can see, there's not much on here, but I have replaced the factory candle globe headlights with these LED headlights. These are ADR compliant lights. I find that they are pretty good, especially the high beams. For most of the driving I do, which you know, sometimes includes night driving, there is plenty of light to see out the front. I don't do silly speeds at night, so I'm not in any requirement to put big light bars on the vehicle just as yet. The only other light mod that I have, as you can see here, is the reversing light. Comes on when the car's in reverse. As you'll note, I am missing a number plate, which was the casualty of the canning stock route. We run aggressive all-terrain tyres, the Cooper Discoverer ST Maxes. I run these through the Kimberleys and now run it against the canning stock route. We haven't had a single issue with any tyre so far. I picked these tyres because of the tread pattern. The smaller blocks down the middle of the all-terrain allow quite a ride on the biddo and really great handling when the biddo is wet or hot. The aggressive blocks on the outside provide me a little bit more four-wheel drive capability, in particular when it gets a bit muddy or boggy with the bigger blocks. And the sidewalls on these tyres are super strong with a really nice aggressive grip pattern. For the canning stock route, we run 15 psi cold on the front, which brings it about to 18 when warmed up. Because of the extra weight on the rear, been running about 19 psi on the rear cold, which brings it just over 20. Hey, we found that to be the winning combination for us. I've seen a lot of mud terrains out in the canning stock route. I've also seen a lot of all terrains out in the canning stock route. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer there.
It's worth noting the only wrong answer is highway tyres. Highway tyres are unsuitable for the CSR.
It's important when going out in remote areas that you're always prepared for the worst case. For completing the canning stock route, we decided to bring along a satellite phone, quite an old one, and also the Gen 3 Spot, which is a personal locating device. So this is pre-programmed with 2 different messages, so you can press the OK button to send it to anyone on your list to say, yep, these are my GPS points, I'm okay. They can also track you if that's what you want them to do in your entire route. In case of an emergency as well, you have the SOS button, which will mean that the Royal Flying Doctors and police will have your GPS location and send out a convoy to come and get you.
In terms of comms and other dash instruments, we keep it very, very minimalistic. This Uniden Sundowner UH-088 is one of the original dinosaurs. It'll probably outlive me. It's been great. It's only 40 channel. Don't have any intentions of removing that. I don't run electronic map systems. One of the things that I enjoy doing out in the bush is getting that sense of being a bit lost. So I do have a GPS phone app which we will refer to if we need to, but other than that, we just hit the tracks. Okay, the intention here is just to provide you some of the statistics relevant to our trip along the Canning Stock route and our vehicle, to maybe assist you guys if you're looking to do the trip, or as a comparison to if you've already done the trip. So firstly, and very easily summarized, is power. We're in a naturally aspirated diesel engine. I believe it comes out in 90 kilowatts. That's not a lot of power. It's a bit of torque, but we had absolutely no issues doing the Canning Stock route whatsoever. Out of all the hundreds of dunes we crossed, there was one that on the short run up we ran out of steam heading up there. Very simply, we reversed down to the longer run up section and give it another crack, and we were up the next go. So in terms of power, if you've got a low power vehicle, I don't think that's going to be an issue on the Canning Stock route. The most important thing that we've found in terms of vehicle capability has been suspension. We have got a 3-inch lift and a remote reservoir shock absorber set up in this vehicle. The springs 3 inches has been brilliant. If you guys are wondering what size lift you should get, I recommend as a minimum 2 inches of lift. The 3 inches for us meant that we had no washout, rock drop off, whoopsie within a dune that we would even consider to be trouble for the vehicle. My only recommendation is, if you're getting your lift, to take your vehicle into the shop with weight on it, so that they can get the lift right, because on a trip like this you do take a bit of extra weight and you wouldn't want to sink under 2 inches too far. In terms of the shock absorber, that's probably the most important thing. You really want to keep that vehicle and the passengers within the vehicle as stable as possible. You don't want to be rattling around for 1800 kilometers. That's when the damage occurs. The remote reservoir shock absorbers have been brilliant for making this trip as smooth as possible. They absolutely excel in big washouts and articulation, especially when you hit it at a little bit of pace. They absorbs that impact like butter. Fuel economy, to give you an idea of what we use and maybe give you an idea of how you would compare to us. But before I do that, it is important to talk about the weight of the vehicle. The weight of the vehicle has a huge proportionality to the amount of fuel that you use, and so you guys need to really make consideration about how much kit you're taking. Straight away you can see we've taken a minimalist approach. We haven't got a roof rack. That bar there is actually as part of my homemade awning. So all the weight of our vehicle is inside the cab, and that was a really big focus of ours before we left. That being said, we did take 3 Jerry's additional fuel, so I have on board 145 litres, and we have taken 60 litres additional fuel, as well as about 90 litres of water at the beginning of the stock route itself. Our travelling companion had an extra 40 litres on top of that of emergency fuel that wasn't required for this trip. Other than that, we don't have a lot of heavy kit, and I made sure that everything either had 2 uses, no 2 items that had 1 use. So we minimalised all our stuff as much as possible. Highly recommended if you can try to achieve that. So without further ado, what fuel economy did we get, and was I impressed with it? Well, start off with, absolutely amazed. From things I've read, they basically take a very simplistic approach that says take your fuel economy and double it. We certainly did not do that. We ended up averaging from Villaluna all the way down, including the detour, which took us on graded roads, 600 kilometer detour. We have used 342 litres, and we did about 2,250 kilometers. So that brings you to about 16 litres to the 100 kilometers, which I think is amazing. Certainly better than what I expected. However, we will note that there are quite large stretches of graded 2-wheel drive track as part of the detour and as part of the lowest section of the CSR. So I've tried to break it down into what we approximate we were using in the various areas of the CSR. The top section of the CSR between Bilaluna and Kananawiritsi, we use the most fuel, and we think we're averaging between 18 and 19 litres per 100 kilometres, which is pretty good considering we were fully loaded with weight. The lower section of the trip, I was calculating about between 15 and 16 litres per 100 kilometres, and we sit around the 13 litres 100 kilometres on the two-wheel drive graded tracks, and obviously that's where you can get through your kilometres very quickly. So their approximations of where we sat. We are a lighter vehicle compared to what I've seen, so you'll need to make those comparisons to your own car.
Finally, your driving style plays a big effect on fuel economy. If you're prone to putting the boot in, then I suggest be risk averse with how much fuel you're taking. Jess and I hope the series and the vlogs can support you guys in your next adventure across Australia. If you have a question, please leave them in the comments below. If you've liked the video, please punch the like button, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to follow us on our next big adventure. And as always, please leave the place as you would like to find it.